our first speaker in terms of those who are all very qualified speakers, and we will have Michael Osur will be presenting, quote, unquote, another roadside attraction, telling stories through photography. The best camera is the one you have with you. Learn Michael's lesson on finding the best photograph to convey your story, focusing on his bucket list 7-week cross-country retirement trip in October, November 2021.
And I forgot to
ask.
Michael
Osur.
Maryland,
yes.
Yeah, 13, 14, 15.
Gotcha.
Okay, Michael, you got it.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Another roadside attraction. As Tom said, the best camera you have is the one with you, whether it's a phone. For me, it's an iPhone 13. Our trip started at the end of September, thinking the weather would be perfect. The first night at Crater Lake, look what happened. So you see that top left picture, that's our vehicle, our SUV Ford Edge, covered in snow, even the Crater Lake sign. And by the way, I never did get to see Crater Lake. And there, Eva and I freezing to death on the very first night of our trip. And by the way, that was the only snow we saw the whole trip. This is what I would call a series. And what makes a series? When you take a picture or take a variety of pictures, how do you tell your story? So Ben McKechnie says, look at the small details in a single frame. If you're going to do a series, have each part of that series tell a story, plan ahead, narrow, trim, exclude. You all have friends on Facebook that post 52 pictures from their barbecue. No. Narrow it down to the 2 or 3 best. Or ones that tell emotions, and still remember that you still have to have a picture that people can see. Now this picture here, this is called the Cathedral in the Woods outside of Hot Springs, Arkansas. I'm very proud of this picture because it came out beautifully, and you feel the immensity of this, and that even a Jewish guy like me would love to get married. Well, I wasn't married in this cathedral. Don't you feel the light? And don't you feel close to God just from that picture? Oh my. So that's my small details in a single frame. So what we did, and I didn't know this at the time, we were 45 days, 22 states. I did a daily blog on Instagram, never more than 10 pictures. And you have to have a focus. It was national parks, eating breakfast in diners, whiskey distilleries, and visiting family and friends. Let's see how I did in our story. One of our first stops was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, northern Idaho. Now, this is a series, but each picture could stand by itself. On the far left, you see my wife, Eva, holding that pumpkin. Is she exuding happiness? Look at that. She's thrilled to find the right size pumpkin for her. That's my granddaughter and her new husband, Mason, holding, I call it a ghost pumpkin. And none of us had ever seen a pumpkin that color, and there they are. And look at that sardonic fellow wearing the Idaho hat. He's trying to get through that corn maze and getting lost. See how each one has a different look or a different emotion? That's important for all of us to understand. And that's the stories I was trying to tell. Or I guess I was telling. Now, this is outside Louisville, Kentucky. Of course, I went there to drink whiskey, but we came across a 100-year-old candy store. And these 2 old codgers, brothers, make candy the old-fashioned way. You see on the left one, there they are mixing together this red, sugary substance so they can make red hots. And the middle one, that's him heating it up. See, he's got that spatula. And then they put on the right side, you see them putting it through equivalent of a pasta press to make those candies come out. And then they drop the candy on the counter and it makes little red hots. I can taste those. Can you feel that? And these guys have been doing this, they're all in their 70s or 80s for 50, 60 years, 70 years, and they haven't changed a thing. And what a show, and what an unexpected pleasure of, number one, the variety in the series, but each picture also tells its own story. And that's when I think about how all of us just keep that camera with you, keep your phone with you. I know, and everyone says, don't take that picture. I don't want to be in your picture. Yes, you do, because you want to later present it to Speakers Bureau, maybe. Now, the far left here is Devil's Tower. Have you seen Close Encounters? This is one of those magical spots that we didn't know we were going to see, but we did. And this one is has some strange vibes going around it. But it's this massive stone structure in the middle of nowhere. And you'll hear stories how the scientists explain it. I think it's really space aliens. Contrast with the next picture. If you look carefully at the carving, this is not very far from Mount Rushmore, but this guy has this idea that he was going to sculpt Crazy Horse in the mountains here. Now, Mount Rushmore took 5 or 7 years to do. This guy's been working on this. Well, he's dead now, and his sons are working on this. Will they ever finish? I don't know. But you still feel like you want to contribute to whatever their chaotic journey that they're on to bring Crazy Horse to life. And the craziness of these weird roadside attractions you don't expect. Oh, you'll see me there. That's me with the Red Yeti. This was a great place for lunch. They serve traditional Kentucky food. Why the Red Yeti? I have no idea, but I have chased after the abominable snowman in the Northwest, and he's about the size of that. Now, we've talked about whiskey and Tennessee whiskey after the Kentucky bourbon. There I am standing next to my hero, Jack Daniels. Well, need I say more? And if you haven't tried whiskey, well, you need to try the Jack Daniels, even though it's not my favorite, but nonetheless, he used the spring water and invented a process called the charcoal filtering, the Tennessee whiskey style. And that's almost more important than the bar code that Michael Alexander's father invented. Now, the far right, this is from Wall's Drug, South Dakota. That's my wife standing next to Wyatt Earp. Now, my wife is an Earp. She's actually related to Wyatt Earp. And what a great surprise to find her distant relative. He's a tall fellow there. What a great. Anyway, when an Earp meets an Earp, it's a great experience. But see, each picture tells its own story. And I was ready with that camera, or gave my camera to someone to take that picture. And this is how you tell a story. And these are all their own red side attractions. Oh, Michelle, you're going to try. I can't read and talk at the same time. But yeah. Now, finally to whiskey. We went to as many distilleries as we could find. I only brought home 45 bottles of whiskey. Oh my. So the top left is the owner and distiller from this Pennington distillery outside Nashville. Now, when I buy whiskey at a craft distillery, I always ask someone, is the owner here? Is the master distiller here? And they go, well, yeah, he's over there. Carter's over there. He's trying to fix the bottling line. So I'm fearless. I just go over there and I go, are you Carter? He goes, yes. I go, I want to buy your special whiskey that you only sell here at the distillery, but will you sign it for me? And he goes, absolutely. And I go, what about your bottling line? I go, you're buying whiskey. I need to sell whiskey. I don't need to fix the bottling line. And he wrote a really nice note there about, Michael, enjoy your trip. See you on the rebound there. Now, how cool is that? And now that bottle's so special, I don't know if I'll drink it. The middle picture, this guy was a Division I baseball star, but he gave it all up to make whiskey. And that middle bottle there, you'll see that not only does he sign it, but his dog puts his paw print on the whiskey. How do I drink that one? But the best part of this trip, on the right picture, you'll see that copper item is called a whiskey thief. Now, I could do a talk on this. In the old days, the people working in the distillery, when they had a break, they would carry this with them, hide it in their pants leg, and they'd stick this in the little hole in the barrel and taste whiskey. and no one would be the wiser because the barrel didn't have to be open. But that's now how you fill bottles from a barrel when you're just tasting it before you actually bottle it. I think I need to get myself one of those because I have a lot of barrels I want to taste at many distilleries. And I've never seen that before or heard of that. I think we'll go with that. So one thing I found is not only do you want to take the pictures, but you talk to the people that make the difference. For us at craft distilleries, there's always the owner or the master distiller or the blender around, and they want to talk about their craft. And then, of course, sell a little bit of whiskey. Have you ever heard about the Cadillac Ranch? Oh my. So this guy in 1974 decided to stick a bunch of old Cadillacs in an empty cornfield, in a cornfield. Now, I try to tell the story here. So the Cadillac Ranch picture, you see in the distance these Cadillacs, and now we'd heard of it, but until you see it, you can't really believe it. So there's a close-up on the bottom left. They actually have a little stand where they sell you spray paint and want you to go paint these Cadillacs. And the bottom right, you'll see some guy up there. I even have videos of him. He was on a mission. I don't know what he was doing, but he had 3 different kinds of paint, and he was telling the story. Then about every 2 or 3 months, the owners come through and repaint the Cadillacs. One year, it was Mother's Day, they painted them all pink. Another time, they were all black for Black Lives Matters. Sometimes they're all white. And they do different things like that. Now, I don't know about you, when you travel across the country, is this a thing you would stop at? Well, again, if you're talking about another roadside attraction and stories to be told and pictures to be taken, I highly recommend this one because it's really kind of a quirky place. Now, you also run into serious things. On the far left, this is in Memphis, Tennessee. This is the Lorraine Hotel where Martin Luther King stood on that balcony when he was assassinated in 1968. Now, we saw a sign for the Lorraine Hotel, but didn't know what it rang a bell, so we went over there to check it out. They've turned this hotel into a civil rights museum. And the parts of this, the motel room where Martin Luther King stayed with his team is exactly how it was left. Those are the original vehicles that were in that parking lot. And then you think you're on vacation, all of a sudden you're learning about the civil rights movement in a way you didn't expect. And that this hotel where tragedy happened now becomes a place where people learn about civil rights. And now that's a pretty amazing, unexpected roadside attraction. On the right, we were cruising through southern Minnesota, and Eva said, "Oh my God, we're only 30 miles from where Buddy Holly's plane crashed and he was killed the day the music died." So we went, this is actually right by the cornfield where that plane crashed all those years ago in the 50s, 56, I think. And then we went into town to the Surf Ballroom, which is the last place that they had played their concert. Now that is a quirky, now, Buddy, why those glasses like that for people who know music? That's Buddy Holly wore those black rim glasses because he was a great singer, musician, but a kind of a nerd when it came to the look. He was the opposite of cool. And does each of those frames capture the essence of what we're talking about in a photograph that tells a story? Now, yesterday and today, on the left, on the bottom left, you'll see, oh yeah, that's me in 1977. Look at that hair, look at that beard, wearing my cat hat in Colorado. Next to that is the same picture in the same location with the same, sign. Well, they modified the sign a little bit in October. Now, I think I look the same. Yeah, sure, my hair is gray. I don't have any hair on top. My beard's gray. But have you ever thought about going back to a place of an iconic picture of your youth and redoing that picture? Now, on the right, this is a bridge outside of Taos, New Mexico. And when I showed this to my friend Plum in New York, he said, "Michael, I have a picture of you when we were going cross country of you standing on that bridge in 1977. I must have only had one hat in those days. But how cool to remember those and to tie it back. So think about also that. Go back to some important event of your life where you have a great picture and reenact it. Why not? And then, for you, the Empire. Now, you pass by the dinosaurs every time you go to Palm Springs. But how about this one at Christmas time, dressed up like a little elf? The bottom left there is my favorite burrito place, Rosa Maria's, for those in the Redlands area. And who hasn't been to Hadley's for a date shake and an iconic Inland Empire sunset? So even close to home, you can find. So when's the last time you stopped and looked at those dinosaurs? I know, fight the tourists off so you can get that picture. Now, up in the Bay Area, I came home. We have an acre of land, and rather than have it poison the oats and such, we bring in goats 3 times a year. There they are. That little baby goat was born on our property. We rent the goats, so we don't get to keep the new babies, which is unfortunate, but there you go. And they come for about 3 weeks and become endlessly entertaining. And Marilyn says I'm out of time. I want to show you one. On the right are my favorite pictures from various diners. Each diner, by the sign, tells you what their focus is. You see each one. That'll be another talk on another day. But think about when you tell your story, even a sign for a restaurant, especially a diner, will tell you so much. Finally, now that I'm in the Bay Area, on the left, we took the ferry to the San Francisco Giants game, and there's a cool view of the Bay Bridge. Now, it's an ugly bridge. It's not like the Golden Gate, but from here, it looks majestic. And on the right is a picture I took just 3 days ago of the Golden Gate Bridge from a spot I never had been before, but on the opposite shore from San Francisco. Even on a crowded day, nobody was in this area where we took that picture. And that really tells you the San Francisco story. So there you have it. Tell your stories, have your camera, phone, whatever it is with you, share it, but also think about those principles we talked about. Let me go back to them. Small details in each picture. Plan ahead. If you do a series, have each picture in that series. I use the triplicate approach that tells different pieces of the same story. Look for those emotions of happiness or sadness. And don't forget, make sure you have the lighting all set. My time is up. Thank you, Tom, and everybody. Find your own roadside attractions. Tom.
Thank you, Michael.